Picture a meeting inside a Japanese company. A proposal circulates. Every department head has already been consulted, quietly, one at a time, in the weeks before the meeting even happened. By the time the room is full, everyone nods, everyone signs. It passes unanimously, without a single objection raised out loud. Now picture that decision failing, badly, costing the company money, or its reputation, or worse. Who takes the blame? In a lot of Japanese organizations, the honest answer is nobody, exactly. Not because no one made the decision, because everyone did, together, one quiet conversation at a time, until the responsibility for it simply dissolved into the process that produced it.
We've covered the mechanics of this before, an informal process called Nemawashi. The word itself comes from gardening. It literally means going around the roots, the careful work of loosening the soil around a tree's roots before transplanting it, so the tree doesn't die from the shock. In a company, that means quietly discussing a proposal one-on-one with every stakeholder, addressing objections in private, long before anything is written down. Only after that groundwork is done does a formal document, a ringi show, get circulated for signatures, collecting a chain of stamps moving up through the org chart. By the time that document is actually being stamped, it isn't really being decided on at all. It's being recorded. The real decision already happened, in private, in a dozen separate hallway conversations that left no paper trail of their own. It's slow to decide and fast to execute, and by the time anything is official, everyone in the chain already agrees. That's the version of this story that gets told as a strength. Here's the version that doesn't get told as often.
When a decision is made by everyone, a strange thing happens to accountability. It doesn't get shared out equally, the way credit on a group project might be. It gets diluted until it's almost impossible to locate. A political scientist named Masao Maruyama, writing in post-war Japan, as the country was still reckoning with how it had ended up in a catastrophic war, gave this phenomenon a name that's still cited today: the system of irresponsibility. His argument wasn't really about corporate meetings. It went much deeper, into the structure of pre-war Japanese government itself. Maruyama described that system in layers. At the top, a symbolic figure carried along like a portable shrine at a festival, visible to everyone, but not actually steering. Below that, officials executing policy without ever claiming to have originated it, each one able to say a decision came from somewhere above. And beneath them, actors who could push events forward precisely because no one above them was clearly formally in charge to stop them. Every layer could point to another layer. The cabinet had no constitutional power to control the military, and the military answered to no civilian authority at all. Nobody was fully in charge, which meant when things went catastrophically wrong, there was no one clearly in charge of having caused it either. The structure wasn't an accident or a failure of individual character. It was built that way, layer by layer, and it worked exactly as designed, right up until it didn't.
This isn't a fringe theory. It comes from one of Japan's most cited post-war political scientists, still taught and debated in Japanese universities today. Maruyama pointed to a striking piece of evidence from the Tokyo War Crimes Tribunal after World War II. Of the 25 top wartime leaders charged as Class A war criminals, prosecutors noted that not a single one claimed he had wanted to start the war. Every one of them described himself as having simply gone along with a decision that was somehow already in motion by the time it reached him. Maruyama's point wasn't that they were lying or performing convenient amnesia for the tribunal. It's that the system itself was built so that no single individual ever had to own the outcome, a structure of diffused responsibility running from the imperial cabinet all the way down to the men standing trial for it. It's a genuinely uncomfortable argument, and it's worth being clear about what it isn't. It isn't an excuse.
Maruyama wasn't arguing that the 25 men on trial were blameless. He was arguing that the system around them had been engineered, deliberately or not, so that guilt could always be passed one level further down or one level further up until it landed nowhere at all.
Fast forward to 2015, and a strikingly similar pattern shows up, not in wartime government, but in a modern boardroom. Toshiba, one of Japan's most storied industrial companies, a name behind everything from laptops to nuclear reactors, was forced to admit it had inflated profits by over $1 billion across multiple business divisions over several years. An independent investigation committee was brought in to find out how something this large went unnoticed for so long, chaired by Hiroichi Ueda, a former chief prosecutor at the Tokyo High Public Prosecutor's Office, precisely the kind of outside figure brought in because he owed nothing to Toshiba's internal politics and no incentive to soften what he found. The committee delivered its report on July 20th, 2015. It didn't point to a handful of rogue accountants cooking the books on their own initiative, working alone, hoping not to get caught. It pointed to something structural. A corporate culture, in the committee's own words, under which employees found it impossible to go against the intentions of their superiors. Targets came down from the top, quarter after quarter, ambitious, sometimes close to unreachable. Nobody below felt able to say no, and nobody above ever had to say the word falsify out loud. The instruction never had to be explicit, for the outcome to be inevitable.
Now, Toshiba's failure wasn't Nemawashi in the textbook sense. Nobody was quietly building one-on-one consensus around a shared proposal, working the room before a formal meeting. It was closer to old-fashioned top-down pressure, targets handed down and simply expected to be met, no discussion invited. On the surface, that looks like the opposite mechanism entirely, hierarchy instead of horizontal agreement. But look at what the two stories actually share underneath. In both cases, the system was built to produce agreement, whether through patient consensus building that absorbs objections before they're ever spoken, or through the simple expectation that you don't contradict your boss out loud in a meeting. And in both cases, once everyone had gone along with it, responsibility for what happened next became almost impossible to pin on any one person. Consensus culture and hierarchical pressure look like opposites on paper, one bottom-up and patient, the other top-down and blunt. In practice, they can fail the exact same way, by making sure the outcome belongs to everyone, which in practice means it belongs to no one at all.
Here's the trade-off most outside observers miss. Consensus-based systems really do deliver something valuable. Less friction, faster execution once a decision is actually made, fewer people blindsided or quietly sabotaging a plan they never agreed to in the first place. That part is real, and it's not a myth invented to excuse slow meetings. But consensus has a cost that only shows up when something goes wrong. In a system built around individual authority, a bad decision has a name attached to it, and that name faces consequences, which creates pressure to get it right, or at least to stop early before the damage compounds. In a system built around collective agreement, a bad decision can keep moving long after it should have stopped, because stopping it would require someone to step outside the consensus and say clearly, out loud, "This is wrong, and I'm the one saying so." That's a much harder thing to do inside a room where everyone has already nodded. Psychologists have a related, much narrower idea for ordinary situations. The more people who witness a problem, the less likely any single one of them feels personally responsible for fixing it, because responsibility spreads thin across everyone present. Maruyama's system of irresponsibility is that same basic mechanism, built deliberately into an entire institution instead of happening by accident in a crowd. And once it's built into an institution on purpose, on the way decisions get made and signed off, it doesn't just slow down accountability. It can make accountability structurally impossible to locate, even when everyone involved is individually acting in good faith.
The lesson here isn't that consensus is bad, or that Japanese management is uniquely flawed. Every organization on Earth, in any country, can build a system where responsibility quietly evaporates. Boards of directors do it by committee. Matrixed corporations do it by splitting ownership across departments that each report to someone else. Japan just happened to produce a political scientist who named the pattern with unusual precision, tracing it all the way back to a national government and decades later, a corporate scandal large enough to prove his point again in a modern boardroom instead of a wartime cabinet. The real lesson is that consensus and accountability don't automatically coexist just because everyone in the room agreed. Getting buy-in and knowing who's on the hook when it goes wrong are two separate design problems, and solving the first one doesn't solve the second for free. If you want the speed and buy-in that come from getting everyone on board, you still have to deliberately design who specifically owns the final call and who is allowed, expected even, to say no before the ringi show ever gets signed. Skip that step, and you don't get a company where everyone is responsible. You get one when it matters most. No one is.
Consensus without ownership isn't harmony. It's just delay before the same failure everyone saw coming, and nobody stopped. Subscribe for the next one.